Did you know that 7 out of 10 Americans who have medical bills say that they have to lower their spending on food in order to avoid a medical bankruptcy? Navigating our highly complex world of healthcare and health benefits leaves many people feeling like a snowball in, well, you know where. I'm Josh Butler, healthcare consultant and advisor to more than 150 employers around the country, and this is a Snowball's Chance in Healthcare, a show about restoring hope in healthcare. Join us as we discuss ways you can lower your healthcare and benefits costs, how companies are winning the healthcare and benefits battle, and how hope is being restored to this community and communities across the country. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of a Snowball's Chance in Healthcare. I'm Josh Butler, your host, and I'm also the president of Butler Benefits and Consulting. We are a healthcare consulting and brokerage firm located in Amarillo, Texas. And each and every week, we are sharing strategies and stories and having wonderful guests to give people information and insight into one of the most complex and frustrating industries in America, and it is American healthcare, ladies and gentlemen. And this week is no different. I'm super excited to have one of my favorite people in the country guest appear on our program. Kevin Trokey is from St. Louis, Missouri, and he is the founding partner of an organization called Q4 Intelligence, which we're going to learn a little bit more about. And through Q4I, what we always kind of refer to as Q4I, Q4 Intelligence, Kevin coaches and mentors brokers and consultants all across the country. And I can tell you that they focus on 4 key areas of agency development to assist brokers and consultants. That's sales, marketing, service, and leadership. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, they do a wonderful job. Kevin knows this industry extremely well, and he knows what employers are really looking for out there when it comes to their brokers, and they do a phenomenal job helping develop what we consider next generation health insurance agencies and consulting firms. But excited to have this guy on the program this week. Kevin, welcome to the program. It's great to see you, my friend.
You too, brother. Always great to spend some time with you. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, man. How you been doing?
Fantastic.
How's your fall?
Oh man, it's fine. You know, I always say about fall though, it's a little bit like trying to enjoy a scenic trip to a root canal. It's hard to enjoy knowing what waits on the other side. I'm not a fan of winter, but the fall's been beautiful.
That's true, but I also know that you're a fan of fall, and one of the primary reasons because you're a big baseball fan as well, and your cards are in the postseason again, it looks like.
Well, brother, you didn't pay attention over the week, and they took it on the chin 2 days in a row. They are out.
They're out. Oh man. Well, I didn't pay attention. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I've already shed the tears.
Well, I apologize. I got another friend from St. Louis that he hasn't mentioned it, so I'm going to have to rub it in. He's a big Cards fan as well.
It was looking good in the first game till the 9th inning. You know, they took a 2-0 lead and gave up 6 runs and never bounced back in game 2.
Oh, well, you know. Yeah. That's how the cookie crumbles, I guess. But anyways, thanks so much for coming on the program. It's taken me a few weeks to get you on. Had you on my list for so long to talk to because of the innovative and creative work that you do. I think it's very relevant, you know, and it pertains to some conversations we've been having with the audience lately. So last week, we were discussing just how much quote unquote value a certain type of broker can bring to an employer organization, but how so many employers, they really just choose their brokers based on who brings them the best quote, right? Or who brings them the lowest rates and or who they've known for the longest or who they go to Sunday school with. And I've even had a couple of people say things to me like all brokers are pretty much the same. They all quote the same things. They all quote the same products and carriers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin coaches and mentors brokers and consultants from all over the country, some of the absolute most successful people in our business. So it's safe to say that, Kevin, you know what kind of broker or consultant that most employers are looking for out there. So what would you say to that statement that all brokers are pretty much the same?
Well, I guess I would have to agree to a point that too many brokers are the same. And if an employer finds themselves talking to another broker that it reminds them of everyone they've talked to before, they really need to move on and search for that one that is different, that it truly brings different value. You know, I always say that it's not the employer's fault. It is our industry's fault, Josh. We have trained employers. We've encouraged them to make buying decisions that are not always in their best interest.
100%.
They confuse choosing a broker with choosing an insurance carrier. Brokers, they'll track renewal dates, and they'll be calling on employers 90 days, 120 days out in advance of the renewal, looking for a chance to quote. And then, where employers say they're all the same is because at that point in time, it's largely going to be true. I mean, especially in certain market segments. Anybody they invite to quote, they're going to go out to the same carriers. They're going to get the same plan designs. They're going to get the same rates. And they're going to come back. And then the next thing that the broker does is they say, well, yeah, the spreadsheets are kind of the level playing field, but here's what makes us different. And then they go through a capabilities presentation. And a capabilities presentation is, it's basically the same from one to another. And there's where so much opportunity is missed out on, because renewal is about choosing a carrier, choosing a plan design, choosing contribution strategy. And it is often the case, or at least quite often the case, that an employer could be with the right insurance carrier,
Correct,
but completely be with the wrong broker, the wrong advisor. If the advisor is only evaluating the insurance part of the business, they're missing out on a lot of value they should be getting from that advisor.
Yeah, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper in that, because I know one of the big things that you talk about is non-insurance solutions. And we talked and discussed on last week's program that a broker's value proposition is not in our ability to go get a bunch of quotes. I even told the audience, which is predominantly geared towards employers, that's who we talk to here, is that you don't even need a broker to get a quote. I mean, you get a quote from a carrier, and you don't need a broker to go fetch it for you. So I mean, trying to choose what's that analogy that you use a lot is choosing a broker on their ability to quote or the number of years they've been in business is akin to what? I don't know.
Yeah. So I say selecting your broker based on their ability to get quotes is like choosing a chef based on their ability to go grocery shopping.
Right.
I mean, it is the most basic thing that a broker does. Yet it is the one thing that it is their one attempt so often to try to earn the business. And it's just woefully short-sighted. And, I would really challenge any employer who, if that's all they're getting from their broker or from any competing broker, they're not getting what they need out of the relationship. There's more out there.
Yeah. What would you say? I mean, do you think that it goes back to a more fundamental problem where employers they have such distaste for this process, this health insurance process every year, that they don't want to mess with it throughout the year. They just want to mess with it one time a year. And I think that's kind of what's predicated or exacerbated this problem, so to speak, is that they are just so fed up with the status quo industry in general, with healthcare, with health insurance and employee benefits. Do you think that plays into the problem of, I don't want to mess with this throughout the course of the year?
Well, I think it contributes, but it shouldn't. It contributes, but if they really understood what their advisor could do, it would completely change the way they look at that relationship. We write blogs every week. We've been doing it for years. And one of the things that we've been saying forever is an employee benefits advisor has the opportunity to be the biggest, the most valuable business partner that a business owner has. If for any employers that are listening to this, when you think of your employee benefits advisor, if it's not very clear in your head of how they're contributing to your business strategically, how they are helping you with operational issues, clearly how they are having an impact on you financially, and as we talk about having a positive impact on the very emotion of your business because of their connection through you and through the HR, the benefit program to the employees. If you don't have an advisor that, just repeat that is impacting your business in a positive way, strategically, financially, operationally, and emotionally, you're with the wrong advisor. And, the insurance is something people have to buy. And it's probably a personality flaw of mine, Josh. You've probably seen that side of me. I resent anything that anybody tells me that I have to do. And, when employers look at that have to buy of insurance, there is resentment. They resent the cost. They resent the complexity. There's so many things about that they resent, yet they keep doing it. And the right advisor will step back and ask an employer. They'll create this vision of what are you trying to accomplish? This is a big investment. It's a big investment
Right.
of dollars, of time, of education to your employer. What are you trying to accomplish? And when you really start to focus on what is it that you want to buy, instead of focusing on have to buy, it just puts the insurance in a little bit more perspective. Now, I think a good employer with their employees' best interest in mind, who's looking to provide a valuable benefit, they're going to embrace working on this program more on a year-round basis to properly educate their employees, to
Yeah.
communicate effectively with their employees, to make sure compliance responsibilities are taken forward. When all of a sudden you're doing it for a bigger purpose and not because you have to, somebody's forced you to check a box,
Right.
it changes the way that you approach it.
Absolutely. And I love that because, let's drill down a little bit more specifically when you talk about things like, because the audience may be asking, well, my broker sells insurance. I mean, what are you talking about? That's what I have a broker for, and that's their core. Yeah, it's one of our core functions, and it's a necessary function. But you talk a lot, Kevin, through Q4I and through your team and through our coaching sessions and things of that nature about non-insurance, quote unquote, ladies and gentlemen, non-insurance solutions. And I love that because I think that so many employers think that all brokers do is sell insurance. And that's the loan function, not just the primary, but the loan function of a broker. And for some brokers, that may be true, but tell us what a non-insurance solution even is, and give us a couple of examples of how some more innovative brokers that you know and work with are using non-insurance solutions to help their clients and their organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. And the term non-insurance, I don't know that at this point, I feel like we coined it to begin with.
Right.
I'm not sure if we did. We've been using it for so long. The industry will typically refer to them as value-added services, or
Sure.
The things that show up in that capabilities presentation. So those are the things that we're talking about. And the reason that we use the language of non-insurance solutions is to just elevate them to the level of importance that they need to be positioned between advisor and employer. So it could be things such as the compliance responsibilities that come with having a benefit program in place. It could be communication strategies, educational efforts to ensure that employees understand and can use the benefits that are being provided. It could be bringing a benefit administration system, so to bring operational efficiencies to the overall process. I mean, it's compliance, legal resources, HR resources. The role of today's advisor has grown so complex. You just think of what I talked about. You have to educate. You have to deal with legal issues. There are more innovative plan design issues, even on the insurance side. It is truly one of the more complex roles, advisors, that employers have. And so the way we look at it is insurance is a critical answer that advisors have to bring to employers. It's going to certainly be the most expensive investment that they make into their business, especially through the HR, the benefits piece.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think of your advisor, if an advisor strikes you as somebody that shows up to sell you something, you're probably talking to the wrong advisor. The right advisor shows up as a problem solver way before they show up as somebody selling anything. And when somebody shows up with the capabilities presentation and they just start dumping all of these resources on it, they're not using them effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Every solution, whether it's an insurance solution or a non-insurance solution, really by definition wouldn't be a solution otherwise, solves a problem.
Yeah. And I want to be real clear with employers out there is that at Butler Benefits and other, firms around the country, I know a lot of brokers around our country, Kevin's introduced me to a bunch, is that we're not just trying to solve one problem. Everybody thinks that the only problem in healthcare is that, or health insurance, the only problem with it is that it's too expensive. Now, is that a problem? Absolutely, it's a problem. It's becoming less and less affordable for hundreds of thousands of people every single year. But that's not the only problem that we face in healthcare, Kevin. A lot of times I run into people that have health insurance, but they tell me I can't afford to use it. My deductible's so high, I can't afford to fill my prescription. I can't afford to go see my doctor. I can't afford to have this procedure that's not emergent, but it's pretty medically necessary, but I just simply can't afford to do it. Though that's not necessarily the problem with the premium is too high. I mean, there's a lot of brokers, and I'm guilty too. I'm not going to say I've never sold a high deductible health plan to anybody, but I can tell you my eyes are being opened more and more and more each and every year as to when an employer wants to embed a high deductible health plan, what impact is it going to have on that employee when they go to use it? Talk a little bit about that, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. And when that employee is negatively impacted by that experience, I mean, for one, because of the way the system works, how many places the system's broken, it could put that individual employee on a path to financial ruin. It could put them in a situation where they're not going and they're not accessing the healthcare that their health is at risk. So, I mean, it affects that employee at the most profound, significant aspects of their life. And I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I don't have to be overly dramatic. That's a harsh reality of where those can go if the employee and their dependents are not educated. They've not been given the resources. They've not been given the knowledge of how to use such a program. But then it comes back and it's a double-edged sword, because how loyal do you think that employee in that situation is to that employer?
Right.
And when they have that experience, do you think it's contained to that employee? Of course not. They come back and they're talking to their coworkers. It just happens. And you just think of the costs that affect your business that aren't necessarily readily apparent of how those dots are connected. I mean, right now, employers are struggling in certain industries. It's almost impossible for them to keep fully staffed. You know, I go to restaurants over the weekend and half the restaurants shut down because they can't keep people on board. And employers that are being short-sighted, advisors that are being short-sighted to just purely save price on premium and don't look at the overall, how does that affect cost? Is my turnover running 30% when it should be running 15%? How does that affect your ability to compete within your particular industry?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so much more than just a product that you're selling. Is if you can impact businesses at that, organic level, then that's the value that we're talking about. When you get a right advisor in place, that they can help businesses solve a lot more problems than just unaffordable health insurance. But I want to circle back because you mentioned another one of those non-insurance solutions that has been a real hot topic here lately, and it's compliance. I know that when the ACA passed the Affordable Care Act, a whole new industry sprung up, HR consulting, and we're going to be just a consulting firm that's just going to help advise and consult companies on the Affordable Care Act, because you got to pass it to find out what's in it. And then we found these, you remember the pictures of the reams reams of paper and how lengthy. But Kevin, there's another piece of legislation that's law of the land now that I think is going to have an equal impact on employers and plan sponsors, and that is the Consolidated Appropriations Act. And we're talking a lot about it with our clients. But tell us, from your perspective, how are you helping other consultants prepare to have these types of conversations with their clients?
Yeah, and it's one of those things that obviously an insurance advisor, they can sit down in front of an employer and they can just immediately start talking about insurance solutions. And they go out and they know, if I'm going to compete, I better have compliance, I better have these other tools, but they don't take the time to really understand the impact that they have on the business of the client. They don't understand how to really put them in use. They use it as a checkbox to say, well, we make it available. Well, just because your broker has these resources available, if they're not being used, if they're not being used effectively, if they're not being implemented, if they're not being monitored, if they're not being adjusted, you're never going to get the full value. And then it becomes a very dangerous slope that you're on, because you have this false sense of security. So as we tell advisors, if you were going to offer any solution to your prospects, to your clients, you have a responsibility to study and understand it to the level of what problems does it address? What's the financial and operational impact if those things aren't addressed? What does effective implementation look like? Because again, if the solution never gets in place, it may as well not exist. And if you can't create the compelling, if you can't make a compelling argument as to why an employer needs to have this solution in place, and you can't guide them to use it effectively, you're falling short of your responsibilities.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. It's our responsibility. I mean, we take it very seriously. We're a license. If we want to, I've heard brokers complain about, well, nobody ever questions their attorney. They don't pretend to know more about the law than their attorneys or more about accounting than their CPAs. It goes back to what you said initially, is we have to own a lot of that ourselves, and the way we've kind of trained employers that it's been a race to the bottom when it comes to rates, is who can come in and show the lowest rates. And I think that's what's led to some of the systemic problems that we're working so hard to overcome these days. If we could get out of our own way, maybe we could help solve some of these problems.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about Q4I, Kevin. When did you, how old is the company and the organization, and when did you start it, and what else do you specialize in?
Yeah, well, we will, I guess come February will be 14 years. I spent 17 years before that as a broker and advisor myself here in St. Louis. And I just, like so many in the industry, ended up here on accident. But it's amazing in this industry, Josh. You might get here on accident, but it's there's such amazing opportunities to, one, have a great career, but to make a meaningful impact on others. And so we started Q4I again 14 years ago, this February, coming up February. And because we focus on an industry that we absolutely love. We have two divisions. Our coaching division is it's the one that's been here from the very beginning. And as you articulated earlier, we work with typically, smaller independent agencies to really help them reach their potential, to take control of their growth, their growth trajectory. And we do that through a system of working on the marketing, sales, service, leadership. We help them change the sales conversation that they bring to the buyer. We help them really become those problem solvers rather than selling any product. When you are solving problem, the sale of a product just takes care of itself. It's just automatic.
Yeah,
but when
absolutely.
when you show up and you're there to learn about the story of the buyer and improve their story, takes care of itself. So we have about 45 agencies around the country that we work on in that coaching model. They lean on one another. They share resources with one another, but ours is a very hands-on, very one-on-one coaching environment to work to help agencies improve in each of those areas. We do have a standalone marketing division. One of the with so many agencies, one of the things we recognized that most were going to struggle to do on their own was to really embrace effective marketing. So we created that division where they can outsource that to us. So it's website build, it's marketing automation, it's content creation, really anything about developing the brand, communicating the brand, protecting the brand happens on that side of the business. As we define our value proposition on the coaching, it's about helping agencies put the right number of the right opportunities into the pipeline, move those opportunities to close, and run more efficient organizations around the resulting clients.
Well, I'm a personal testimony. We've been members of Q4I for several years. Some of my best professional relationships, and now turning into personal relationships that I personally have, has sprung up through Q4I. And I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, because I said this last week on our previous episode, that we totally understand relationships. And if you may have a multi-year relationship with your broker or your consultant, and that's perfectly fine. But after listening to Kevin talk today and after listening to this program this week, if you feel like, man, I don't want to change brokers because I really like my broker. We play golf together every Friday. I just wish they would bring me more. I'm going to tell you something, guys. Remember this man right here, Kevin Trokey and Q4 Intelligence. He's happy to take a referral from your organization. Refer your broker to these guys. I can tell you that they've helped change the trajectory of my career. They've helped advance Butler Benefits, and I know Allison would say the same thing. But you don't necessarily have to change brokers. That's probably the fastest route. And if you want to call us, we're happy to talk to you. But I can tell you, we certainly respect and understand that organizations have relationships with their brokers. And if you're wanting more out of your broker each and every year, and maybe Q4I could help them. Kevin, we got about a minute left. Give us the last words about last minute tips, or advice that you would give employers when they're selecting their brokers?
Yeah, there's always going to be a tiebreaker. And if you think of bringing multiple brokers in, what is that tiebreaker going to be? Too often it comes down to the relationship. And that's how we fall in the trap of thinking it's relationship business. But if you don't have an advisor competing for your business that can articulate how they're going to bring value beyond the numbers that show up on a spreadsheet, you don't have the right advisor in front of you. I know, Josh, one of the standards that they hold themselves to is they don't ask anybody for their business until and unless two things happen. It becomes clear that there is an opportunity for meaningful improvement to the current situation, the current HR benefits program. And unless Josh and his team can demonstrate very clearly of how they will bring a specific solution to address that need and articulate what the improved results are going to be. And if you don't have somebody bringing you that kind of opportunity to evaluate and compare based on that bigger impact, you don't have the right people competing for your business.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Kevin, thank you so much. That's going to do it for another episode of A Snowball's Chance in Healthcare, ladies and gentlemen. As always, Kevin, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again soon, my friend.
You too, brother.
And as each and every week, we're bringing you tips and strategies and solutions and guests like Kevin Trokey to give you and your organization a snowball's chance in healthcare. You guys have a good weekend.